Bienvenidos a este vídeo de unplandivino.net. Vamos a ver dos breves puntos de una conversación sobre las emociones, una entrevista, una especie de entrevista a Miller, a Jesús, y en este caso de una cosa fundamental sobre el miedo, la verdad y el dolor, cómo se relacionan esas cosas, muy simple. Y vamos allá.
What are the original causes of fears and terrors that now seem to dominate the planet?
Well, the answer to this question is quite simple, really, in a lot of ways. And that is, fear is the direct result of us not understanding the truth. So all of our terror and all of our fear that now dominates the planet is due to the fact that we don't know the truth about how the universe works and how everything runs. And the main reason why we don't know the truth is because we've accepted the lie. Mm-hmm. And we believe the lies are true. And that's really what fear is. Fear is false appearing real.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've actually created an unreality, if you like, from God's perspective. We've then called it real, mm-hmm. And then, of course, we're going to have lots and lots of fears and terrors associated with it. Now, this began through the process of a mon and a man. The first human couple decided to make the first step into untruth. And the first step into untruth was that we could be gods. Mm-hmm. In other words, we could be not just self-determining beings, which was what God created us to be, with free will, but rather godlike or gods, in that we could actually tell God what to do. We could tell God what to do. We could create our own laws. We could create our own. And this idea or concept was the first inception of a lot of lies, of a lot of errors. But with every error comes the penalty of the pain of the error. And the pain of the error is always fear. There's always fear associated with the pain of any error. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem, is that every time we deny truth, fear is automatically created on that particular subject. Now, what's happened over many, many tens of thousands of years historically now is that initially man created the monster error, which was that we could be God or we could be gods, right? That's the monster error. You know, there's only one God, there only ever will be one God, and there'll only ever be one creator of our entire universe, and we're never going to be gods. We may become very much God-like in our nature and personality and so forth, but in the end, we'll all be dependent upon the laws that God's already constructed and created. The real God created these laws in the universe so that anarchy couldn't exist. And what happened was humankind stepped into anarchy. And in that process of stepping into anarchy, a lot of untruths began to be taught. Mm-hmm. The first untruth being that we can be God. Mm-hmm. And then of course, that's a pretty monster untruth. And of course, that then means that any other smaller untruth is much more easily accepted. Yeah. And so what happened very rapidly historically is that this monster untruth, which was the beginning of all the untruths taught, began to be taught and encouraged. And each untruth begets another generally. Yeah. And eventually each fear creates more untruths as well, because the fear created by the previous untruth then has the problem of creating another untruth generally. This is the problem with fear, with lies. You have to lie more in order to maintain the reality you've now constructed, right? And the problem with this process is that it's been an ongoing process since the first human couple, and it very rapidly came into being as a result of the big monster untruth that was told right first.
I love that. I want to call it the big monster untruth. It's far more exciting than the original sin.
It is the biggest untruth that still affects humanity today, and the biggest untruth that affects our development of becoming at one with God. It stops us from becoming at one with God. And so it's a monster untruth, right? And this big untruth, the biggest one of all, caused then our ability to accept other untruths, which are smaller, but just as dangerous. And as each untruth becomes accepted, it becomes the lie appearing real. It's fear. It's fear now. And every single fear now that occurs is occurring because of all of these untruths that everyone believes to be true. Yeah. Now, that is the major cause of all of the world's untruth, all of the world's problems with regard to fear and terror are all caused by the fact that very few of us now know the truth, God's truth we're talking about now. If all of us knew God's truth and we really felt it, because the only way to know God's truth is in your heart, in your soul, and we really felt it, there would be no fear at all. There would be no terror at all. We would not experience terror. Even if someone tried to murder us, we wouldn't feel terror. Because once we have all of these truths inside of our soul, we are not afraid of anything anymore. Also, we would be in a state of love with God, like we would be receiving God's love and we'd be at one with God in that location. And as a result, we would be also knowing that we're loved. So the other error, the other untruth that you're not worth anything, would not be possible to enter us. And so we would not walk around as we do today believing that we're to blame for a lot of things that we never did, and that other people are blamed for things that we did. Both of them come from the same primary cause. Yeah. And none of those things would be occurring either. So we need to start seeing that all of this fear and terror that's on the planet is the direct result of our acceptance of lies.
Yeah.
Now, once a person understands that, they become a lot more dedicated to finding out the truth, not only about universal truth, but also about the truth about themselves. Because they understand that the problem associated with lies is it causes all fear, causes all terror, causes all pain. Yeah. So every time you imbibe lies, you are automatically going to create pain, automatically. And you're automatically going to create suffering, and therefore you're automatically going to create fear and terror.
You said every time we imbibe lies, so every time we accept them as truths, as a false belief. What about every time we just allow them or accept them?
Well, that's imbibing a lie too. Yeah. Why would we ever allow a lie? You know, it's only because we've already allowed another lie, which is that you're not allowed to speak up about lies.
Yeah, yeah.
Or we might have beliefs that, you know, you tell the truth and it's painful. No, it's not painful. Lies are painful. We need to get, you know, these fundamental principles about God's truth right. Lies are painful. Truth is never painful. Yeah. Truth never causes pain, ever. Truth exposes the pain you're already in because of the lies you accepted. You know, so for example, a man who's cheated on his wife, he has, by not telling her the truth, caused her to accept a lie. It's the lie that's going to cause her pain. If he never cheated on her, there'd be no pain. Yeah. Right? He cheated on her, he lied to her. There's now going to be two pains: the fact that he cheated and also the fact that he lied. And both are untruths. Both are based on untruths. He did it for reasons that are not justifiable ever. And you know, he needs to work his way through whatever that is. But every time you choose to do these things and avoid the truth, you are causing error and pain. You're causing pain, suffering, you're causing terror on the planet. And this is why I keep saying to people who listen to divine truth, the importance of living in truth is the most important thing you can choose to do. Every time you withhold truth, every time you step away from it, every time you avoid it, every time you lie, every time you perpetrate another lie on this planet, you are going to cause pain to yourself, you're going to cause pain to others, you're going to create fear, and you're going to create terror. It doesn't matter what you did it for and what reason you did it for, they are always going to be the results. And that's what we need to see. So this is the primary cause, and we need to see it as the primary cause if we're ever really going to become truthful ourselves. And if we're ever going to become a healer to the planet, we need to understand that basic principle, that every time we lie, allow it to perpetrate, every time we lie to ourselves, every time we lie to others, every time we lie to God, every time we do all of these things, we are just perpetrating more fear, more terror, more problems, more pain, more suffering. And we've got to stop. And we've got to stop even if we're only the first one who stops.
Yeah.
And even if everybody attacks us, we've still got to stop. Because without stopping, we're never going to stop the continual cycle of this multi-generational fear and terror which pervades society.
Thank you. Fear is so destructive. I don't even think I realise the extent of that yet.
Is that what somebody says?
This is, yeah. So this person is asking this question.
Yeah. I don't think hardly anybody on the planet realises the extent
how
of it.
destructive it is.
Como vemos, estos comentarios de Jesús los intercala cuando está haciendo la pregunta, así que volvemos a ella.
No. So the question really is, why do we let it run our personal lives and what seems like the entire world?
I don't know.
That was a quick question.
Well, I do know that. Yeah, it makes no logical sense to let it run our lives or run the entire world. It makes no logical sense at all. Of course, unfortunately, a lot of what we do isn't logical because it's driven by pain that we don't want to feel. So the reason why we allow it to run the world and the reason why we allow it to run our lives is because we're unwilling to feel pain. We're unwilling to accept truth. So as we talked about in one of the questions in this session, truth is the antidote to fear. Truth is what causes all fear to disappear. So the reality is, if we're letting the world run by fear and our own personal lives run by fear, it's because we have a very strong aversion to truth. And we need to look at that. We need to start examining that personally and as a society. What we're doing frequently is that we are accepting lies. We allow the perpetration of lies even though we don't believe them. And we like to create lies when it helps us avoid our own personal emotional pain. Yeah. And we've got to stop doing all of these things if we're ever going to have a fearless and a loving society. But it's all about truth. It's all about the acceptance of truth. And this is where I find people the most resistive. They are very resistive to personal truth, very resistive to personal truth. And many people in the world are also violently resistive to external truth. And because we are so resistive to truth, fear and terror are the only results that are going to be created. Lies create fear and terror, not truth. Truth always exposes fear and terror. Truth always helps us be less afraid. And so this is what we need to see in our lives. So a lot of people want there to be another solution. They want the solution to not be truth, but it is truth. Like once you come to know truth, it sets you free from almost everything, including fear and terror.
Mm-hmm.
And if your life is governed by fear and the world is governed by fear, it is because we are individually and collectively unable and unwilling to receive truth. We don't want truth. And I see that as a big problem on the planet. The fact that we don't want truth.
You just said we're unable to receive truth.
Yeah, and unable because of our emotions. We go, inside of us, we're going, I don't want that truth, I don't want that truth. It's going to make me feel it's going to expose some of the pain that I have inside of me, and I feel like I'm unable to feel it, and so I'm unable to receive it. I'm not saying that we're unable in terms of like our soul is not able. We are completely able to receive truth at any time. That's the way God designed us, but we create our own inability to receive it by avoiding our own pain. We don't want to experience our own pain, and so what we finish up doing is avoiding the truth. And then, of course, we complain about how much fear and terror our life's in, but it's all because we've avoided a whole heap of truth. When you accept truth, it's a lot easier. People have no idea how easy your life is once you start really accepting truth and really loving the truth. And all of these fear-based responses are all the result of us avoiding truth. And so, I feel, again, the biggest issue about fear is your refusal to accept truth, whether that be universal truth or personal truth. And for the majority of us, we're a bit more open to universal truth than we are to personal truth. And although I've seen many people react violently to the point where they're willing to go to war for either, to hold on to a universal error or to hold on to a personal error. And they're willing to go to war, and many, many people have died historically as a result of people wanting to hold on to those two things. And it's so sad that this is the case.
So that desire to hold on to those errors is really, it's a fear of receiving truth about those same things.
It's not only a fear of receiving the truth, it's a direct desire to avoid receiving truth. So it's not, now, of course, that's driven by fear, but it's also driven by things like anger and other emotions. So it's not quite as simple as just being related to fear, perhaps. But but our avoidance of truth is the creator of all of the pain. And unfortunately, we think that when we receive truth, we're actually feeling more pain. No, the pain that we're already in is being exposed to us, and that's how we need to see things if we're ever going to change anything on this planet. So that it mirrors some parts of the spirit world. Like there's parts of the spirit world where only truth exists. Nobody lies. Nobody tells an untruth. Nobody fabricates anything. Nobody is in a facade. Like in the first sphere of the celestial kingdom, that's what it's like. So there's places in the spirit world where there's, of course, no fear, because there is no way for fear to exist, because nobody believes any lies. Everyone wants to accept the truth. Everyone loves the truth. Everyone upholds it. Everyone honors it. Everyone values it. Everyone sees how great it is. Everyone understands it sets you free. Everyone understands it helps you experience yourself and your will and your partner and God. And so none of them in those locations want to avoid it. And when we want to avoid it, all we're doing is perpetrating more fear and more terror on the planet and in our personal lives. That's all we're doing when we're avoiding it. So this is where I feel sometimes quite sad, when I feel audiences or groups of people that we're speaking to avoiding the truth of their personal life or avoiding a universal truth. Because I see, well, you say you want to be a leader of, reducing the fear on the planet. You say you want to be a leader of love on the planet. But what you're demonstrating to me is the only way fear can disappear is by you accepting some truth, and you don't want to accept it.
Yeah.
So it's very sad when I see groups of people doing that, because it's proof that they do not understand the reason why fear and terror exists.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand the reason why it exists, you're never going to get rid of it. You know, we need to the only way to get rid of it is to delete what we created, to destroy what we created. God didn't create it, so God can't destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
We created it historically and personally. We create this terror and fear inside of ourselves, and we create it by accepting and imbibing and keeping false beliefs that we don't want to let go of. And these false beliefs are all emotional. They all come from our emotional parts of our soul. And what we've decided to do is avoid the experience of them and leave them in there. And when we do that, there is no hope for us to become a leader in love or a leader in truth under those circumstances. We've got to have some courage and face up to the truth and realise that the true cause of the majority, if not all, of our problems here is the monster lies that have been told. And it's time that we started destroying them and getting rid of them, you know. And there's monster lies religiously, monster lies about God. The biggest monster lie is about ourselves, you know, that we can be gods. You know, that's one of the biggest monster lies. But there's lies about God, there's lies about ourselves, there's lies about science, there's lies about religion, there's lies about emotions, there's lies about relationships, there's lies about parents, about children, about pretty much everything you can consider on the planet. There's a lie about it somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is why we have so much of this pain and suffering, which is a direct result of the fear and terror that we're in as a result of trying to avoid the truth.
So holding on to the lies is creating the fear that we then let to run our lives.
Yes. Yeah. So we need to understand that that's the reason. There's no other reason. There's no magical solution other than us destroying the lies we created. Yeah. And when I say us, I mean humanity collectively destroying the lies we created.
Bueno, pues hasta aquí. Muchas gracias.